Hello, everyone. Welcome to Did You Know? So glad to have you with us today. So, Tristan, what are we talking about today?
Well, I know that Purim is coming up, and I
Ah,
thought we should talk about Purim. What is
Purim.
it?
What is Purim? All right. Well, Purim is an awesome Jewish holiday that comes usually in the Jewish calendar, falls somewhere in March, typically, sometimes February. This year it's later because there's an extra month in the Jewish calendar this year. And so it'll be with us March 24th, which is just in a couple of weeks. And it's a holiday based on the story of the Book of Esther in the Bible. Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
a biblical holiday. It's not one of the what we call the appointed feasts that God gave to Israel, in the Book of Leviticus. But it is based on the story that takes place in Persia back in the day.
Right. Okay. And so, what is the Book of Esther about?
So the Book of Esther has some very unique features about it, but it's basically a historical book, and it takes place during the time when the Jewish people were in exile from Babylon. But interestingly, it takes place during the time after 42,000 approximately Jewish people went back to Jerusalem, but many stayed in what we call the diaspora. Diaspora is a word that refers to Jewish people that live outside of Israel. Dispersion would be an English equivalent. So, one of the places of diaspora during this time, which is approximately about 486 BC or BCE, meaning before Yeshua came, so 480 years. So the temple has already been rebuilt back in Jerusalem, but there are many Jews that stayed in Babylon and in Persia. Persia is modern day, current day Iran. So there was a large Jewish population, and actually there was a large Jewish population and still is some Jewish people there. But throughout the last couple thousand years, there were a good number of Jewish people still in Iran, which is current day Iran. So back to the story of Esther. So this takes place back in that time, and Jewish people had relative freedom under the Persian rule. And so it takes place during that time. And it's a story about a bad guy named Haman. And whenever you say Haman, who's supposed to boo? Boo,
Boo.
Haman, right.
Okay.
And he was prominent in the king. The king's name was actually Xerxes or Achashverosh. And he had a plot to destroy the Jewish people. Haman, essentially.
Boo.
Yeah. And the story, should we go through the story
I think
briefly, or what do you think?
some brief context, I think, is helpful.
Yeah. So the king, so apparently the kings back then, they liked to party.
Right.
So one of the themes during the story of Esther is banquets,
Yeah.
which were parties, right? So what did they do when they got together and partied? They drank, and the parties went on for days. So the story opens with a party, and the king is feeling pretty good about himself. And apparently the men were partying separate from the women, but he wants to show off his queen, his wife. So he calls for her, and she refuses to come. So he gets kind of angry about it, and he gets rid of her. Now, it doesn't say he kills her. It just said that he got rid of her as the queen. She's no longer the queen.
Wow.
So that starts a contest, as it were, to find the perfect replacement for Queen Vashti. That was her name.
Yes.
So he goes through, so they have literally a contest of all the women, all the maidens in the city of Shushan, which was the capital of Persia. So there's this Jewish guy named Mordecai. So when we say his name, you're supposed to go, yay, Mordecai.
Should we do this throughout the
No,
entirety?
you don't have to.
Oh, okay.
But Mordecai is the hero of the story. So, you've got the hero, the heroine, and the villain.
Okay.
So Mordecai's the hero, and he has a cousin, but really she's more like a daughter. And her name is Esther. And obviously she's the heroine of the story. And when he finds out that there's this contest to pick the next queen, he tells Esther to go and enter herself into the contest. So long story short, the king goes through all these women candidates and ends up picking Esther.
Wow.
To become the king. But he doesn't know she's Jewish because Mordecai tells her, don't tell anyone that you're Jewish because, he may not be looked upon in a favorable way.
And was the king, was he not Jewish?
No, he was Persian.
Persian. Okay.
Yeah, he was Persian. So he was from a line of Persian kings.
Okay.
I think it was great-grandfather was Cyrus the Great, who actually gave the decree to allow the Jews to return. So the Persians defeated the Babylonians. So the Babylonians were the ones that came into Jerusalem, destroyed the temple, and took captive the Jewish people to Babylon. Okay, so then 70 years after that, so that was 586. That's for those people that are, historical nerds. So the temple's destroyed, and then 7 years later, under the Persian ruler, defeats the Babylonians.
And so he said, to Esther, don't say that you're Jewish, just in case that he doesn't want
anything bad to happen.
Yeah.
Right. So she enters the contest and becomes the queen.
Okay.
Yeah. Everything's great until this guy named Haman, who is prominent in the kingdom, in the palace, so to speak. He doesn't like Jews.
Okay.
At all. So, meanwhile, one of the subplots is that there was a plot to kill the king, not by the Jews or anything, but Mordecai heard about the plot, and he tells
Esther,
the king's men that this plot's going on, and the king, kills those guys and so on, but he never finds out, or he knows that Mordecai did it, but he never honors. And he wakes up at night, one night, and he's having this dream, and he realizes he didn't honor Mordecai.
Right. Mordecai saved his life.
Yeah, for saving his life. So he calls Haman in, and he asks Haman, how should the king honor someone who deserves honor?
Yes, and basically Haman is thinking he's talking about
He's
Haman.
Thinking,
like, how would I want to be honored?
Right?
Yeah.
Right. So he says, well, the king should, have some, a servant put this man on a horse and ride him through the city and put the king's robe on him and declare this is the man that the king desires to honor.
Wait. On a side note, that just even shows the pride in Haman's heart to be like, I know what a good way to honor anyone else would be. Like, put me on a parade kind of thing. The pride in his heart. So that's just kind of funny. And then he's so humbled. Like, and that's, the Bible says that the prideful will be brought lowly.
Pride comes before the fall.
Yeah, and it's like, wow, Haman, you were so down bad.
Right, so Haman, is so self-focused and full of pride. He thinks, oh, he's thinking about me, right?
Yeah.
So the king goes, yes, that's great. That's perfect. Now go find Mordecai and do exactly what you said with him.
Gosh.
And he's like, right? So he does it. And he's like, just,
wow,
full of anger and all that. So fast forward a little bit, and Mordecai now devises this plot or this plan to destroy the Jewish people. But he goes about
Mordecai,
it.
Haman.
Yeah. Sorry. Haman goes about to this plot. And so what does he come up with? So he comes up with a plan, but he's not going to outright tell the king who the people are. He just says there is a people that are against the kingdom, and their ways are contrary to the ways of the kingdom, et cetera, et cetera. And so he builds this narrative about these people without saying who they are. Mm. And so the king says, okay, so what do you want to do about it? He says, well, we're gonna basically destroy them. He says, okay, so we'll issue a decree to destroy this people. So the king, he's not paying that much attention to it. He's going, yeah, go ahead, Haman, have at it. Now Esther finds out about it. Mordecai finds out about it and tells Esther, there's this plot and you must go to the king and tell him about this plot to destroy our people. And she's like a little hesitant because
a woman can't just approach.
Well, she's the queen. She's the queen. Mm-hmm. However, nobody, even the queen, can't just go into the king's presence.
You have to be asked,
without being summoned.
Yeah,
exactly. And she's like, I don't know about this. And Mordecai utters these words. He says, what if it's just for a time such as this that God has appointed you for such a time as this?
Why am I literally getting emotional, like gonna cry right now?
I know, me too. You know those words, right?
Yeah.
And those were Mordecai's words to Esther. For such a time as this, and he says, but if you don't do it, God is going to bring about his purposes through someone else, which is an incredible lesson for us, because God is going to have his way, right?
Yeah.
Regardless, but yet he chooses us. He chooses us to accomplish a purpose. So for Esther, Mordecai's wisdom was such that Esther, it is for such a time as this that you have been chosen to do this. However, if you choose not to, God's going to accomplish his purpose. In other words, he's going to preserve the Jewish people somehow, some way with others.
Right.
But isn't this your moment?
Yeah, he could have put anyone in that position of power, but he gave that position
to
you.
her. So she says, okay, tell everyone we're going to fast and pray for 3 days, and then I'm going to go to the king. And that's what she does.
Okay.
That's what he does. Mordecai calls for a fast amongst the Jewish people for 3 days. At the end of the 3 days, she goes in at the risk of her life.
Wow.
And he extends his scepter to her, which is a sign of welcoming. What do you want, Esther? I want to invite you and Haman to a banquet. Here's that party again. She could have just said, there's Haman wants to kill our people and you need to do something. No, but she uses wisdom. She has a strategy. And the strategy is she's going to invite him and Haman to a party, banquet, and celebrate. Okay. So there's actually two, but just to cut the story a little short, people can read it. It's a short book. I think it's 8 chapters. So I think it's the second banquet, she tells the king in Haman's presence that there is a man that has a plot to destroy my people. So the king doesn't know she's Jewish. And he's like, who is this man? He's the man. And she points to him.
Was it in front of other people?
No, just the three of them.
Okay.
And there was some attendants there.
Yeah.
And Haman starts freaking out, right? And the king is like, take him away. And he actually falls on Esther, like to plead and to beg. And the king's like, are you going to molest my queen in front of me? Take him away. And he is taken away. Him and his 10 sons are hung on the gallows that he had prepared for Mordecai and the Jewish leaders.
Wow. What a story of irony,
Yeah,
honestly.
and he elevates Mordecai to be in his palace, and he reverses the decree. And it says that the Jews now were able to actually kill their enemies.
Wow. This is such a good story. Wow.
And Mordecai says that from now on, every year on this day, which is the 14th of Adar, which is the Hebrew month, the Jewish people are to celebrate what happened here and to give alms to the poor, gifts to the poor, so that all should be able to feast and celebrate this celebration. And so that is the festival of Purim that we know, based on the book. Now, over the years, a lot of traditions, just like a lot of other Jewish holidays, have grown up, right?
Yeah.
So maybe at our next session, next episode,
Yeah, we can talk about
we
some
can
of
talk
the
about some of the
traditions.
traditions. But it's a great celebration to celebrate God's goodness. Ironic thing about the book of Esther is that God's name, it's the only book of the Bible.
It's not mentioned.
Right, that God's name is not mentioned one time.
What do you think? Do you have thoughts about that? Like the reason behind that?
Well, there's different reasons that interpreters, Bible interpreters have said to it. It could be that that the writer, which most believe it was Mordecai, wanted it to be a historical chronicle, and that the name of God wasn't to be in there for fear of it being rejected or it being a source of persecution later on or something like that.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah, there's no real, this is the reason.
Yeah.
There's different.
But you just see the hand of God through it all.
Yeah, and that's the irony of it, that even though God's name's not mentioned in the book of Esther, he's obviously in it.
Right. Wow. That is amazing. Do you have any last thing you'd want to share with people, or do you want to just go straight into a takeaway for you from the book?
Well, I think that it's just such a dramatic story. And, there's Purim plays. There's, it really is used as a dramatic, application, even still today.
Yeah.
Because it's such a classic story of, a hero, villain, heroine, and so on, and the king. And of course, for us as believers, the application, who's our king? Yeshua is our king.
Yeah.
And Esther is often seen as a type of the body of Messiah, the believers, or Israel herself, right?
Right.
And Haman is the enemy.
Yeah.
The spiritual enemy, Hasatan, Satan, who is always out to destroy God's people.
Yeah. And so really quick too, just briefly, what are some things that we do during Purim? Like how is it celebrated?
Well, so we read the book of Esther.
Okay, all 8 chapters?
Yeah,
okay.
Typically it's read through. And every time Haman's name is spoken,
we boo.
There's a grogger.
Oh,
and we boo. A grogger makes a noisemaker. And the kids are given, or adults also. And so whenever Haman's name is spoken, read, we do the grogger or boo, whatever. When Mordecai's name is read, we go, yay! Because he's the hero of the story, right? And then when Esther's name is read, we go,
Aww.
Because she's the heroine.
Okay, and so that's all we do.
So it's a lot of fun. Purim? So we read through the book. We may reenact, it could be a skit, the Purim spiel, it's called, where it's reenacted, and it could be something very simple, different parts, or it could be a play that's rehearsed and presented that way. And then there's special foods. The one main food is a 3-sided cookie.
Yeah.
Called a hamantaschen.
Yep. And It has like jelly in the middle or something.
Yeah, it has different things in the middle. Yeah. And why is it 3-sided? Well, the tradition is that Haman wore a 3-sided hat.
I didn't even know that.
So hamantaschen is a Yiddish word, literally means Haman's hat.
Okay. And so that's what we're eating.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
In Israel,
and the kids dress up.
The kids dress up. Yeah. So there's typically a costume thing. Kids dress up. Adults can dress up. Mm-hmm. We have a costume contest, things like that. You know. So the kids, maybe the girls will dress up as Esther, or the boys will dress up as Mordecai. But now it's all kinds of things.
Yeah. A Ninja Turtle.
Anyway, a Ninja Turtle, whatever.
Yeah.
Superman, Batman, or
right.
Whatever.
It's kind of gone through the years to that.
Yeah, it's just a lot of fun. In Israel, it's a big thing because everybody dresses up.
Wow.
And it's a big event.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, so those are some of the things we do, traditions and that for sure, and things in culture, but I think for me, the takeaway is definitely, obviously, just as a woman, that, the view of Esther and the way that she really was put in that position for such a time as this. And it just leads me for my personal reflection that oftentimes when we're faced with having to say something or do something that's hard, it's really scary. And it's like, I can't do that. God, use somebody else. And it's like, God isn't looking to use somebody else. He's looking to use me in this moment, or for you watching, he's looking to use you to say that or do that or act on that. And delayed obedience to God is disobedience to God. And so when the Lord is telling you to do something, we act on it. And I just think it really encourages me to just listen to the voice of God, do what he's asking of me, even when it's hard. And that principle of laying your life down to Jesus, to God's authority. And even if it cost me my life, like Esther was in a position where she could have died for doing what she did.
That's really good, because if you look throughout the Bible, the characters, right, we could say, well, I'm not like Abraham, or I'm not like Moses. But really we are.
Yeah, they were just people.
Because they were just ordinary people that God chose to do extraordinary things.
Wow.
And Esther was a poor Jewish girl, orphan, right, raised by her cousin Mordecai. And yet God used her for such a time as that to deliver her people.
Yeah. It's not about being special.
And so it's a great lesson for each of us. No matter who you are, God can use you for such a time as this. Whatever that might be. It may be big, it may be little, but often our reaction is, I could never do that.
Yeah.
I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not whatever, fill in the blank. Yeah. But if God chose you, then he'll equip you for it.
So true. He'll equip you for sure. So,
Amen.
Yeah, we love you guys so much. Any questions, again, any way that's encouraged you, we would love if you let us know. If you could like, comment, subscribe, if you're listening, ratings, all that stuff, But yeah, we love you so much, and we pray this encouraged you, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Hello, everyone. I just want to let you know about an exciting event that's coming up on March 23rd. That's Saturday, March 23rd from 4 to 9 p.m. at Boca High Football Stadium. It's a citywide community outreach. Lots of churches and congregations will be getting together to talk to people about Yeshua, about Jesus. There's going to be worship music there. There's going to be refreshments. It's going to be a lot of fun. Want to invite you to join us. Shalom Boca is going to have a table there. So please stop by and meet us and talk to us. And we'd love to share who we are with you. And it's going to be a lot of fun. Tell your friends. Come on down.